Brisbane also got me out of the myth that is Melbourne sporting culture, that AFL is what it is. Like
It's intoxicating.
This city is actually like
It's a bubble.
I try to explain it. It's like the city's been lobotomized, and like they've and we're gonna get into that. No, like they're all like biggest sport in the world, matter of time. No, it is never leaving these borders, and it's actually a great sport. I played it most of my life, but it means nothing outside of these borders, and this lie you live that it's going to make it, and the way you and I'm not so much supporters either. I need to really like separate that. It's the administration, and we'll get into that. There's a book I've just been reading here. I came to get Joe Gorman's book on Oz football, and then I put up this book called The Boys Club, and I implore everyone to read it as much as Vince Regari's book, The Boys Club, written by an AFL journalist who was basically after what happened with Essendon and the doping.
The doping stuff.
And it is about the mafia that is the AFL and the way their claws are in every institution in this country, government, social, power brokers, corporate, and they fuck everyone and their own to make sure that this sport, no one can even have the crumbs. And
but and the epicenter is in Melbourne though.
Oh yeah, AFL House. And what they do, like, it would make you. I've read like 6 chapters, and it's just like this is written by someone who loves AFL, but like they are the country's bullies. They are a mafia essentially, and we again.
Do you know who they remind me of? They remind me of the NFL, because the NFL's got a very similar
setup.
I've heard this, but I think the NFL are pretty friendly with like other at least with football.
Well, maybe with other codes, because seasons don't clash with, I think, NBA and baseball. It might be, but they do have this like very much super, like the Colin Kaepernick situation. Is one component. The concussion aspect of the game, that like the things that they sweep under the rug to prevent the branding from coming down. Very similar to AFL.
But I think I'm thinking, even from my perspective, right? I'm a consumer. I'm a normal person. I'm not in the AFL, I'm not a supporter, but the media is incredible at driving that narrative and incredible at blinding you from what's happening in the rest of the world, sporting-wise, and in the rest of the country. It's like, oh yeah, AFL is everything because that's all I see in the media.
It's not.
You know?
It's not. Again, he didn't want to tell you, he didn't bring it up, but Simon Hill told me a story, I told you about this, about I don't want to get the stations wrong, and obviously we're going to say allegedly to make sure everything's all right. But essentially, he told me a story of how when he was at SEN's like the radio sports station here. Essentially, SEN were like negotiating for the AFL's new deal, and the AFL basically part of their thing was like, you need to stop reporting on you need to cut your A-League reporting, and they were like, well, what's that got to do with anything? It's not, we don't want you reporting on the A-League, and essentially they were told like if you want to win the rights, cut down on the A-League, and that is just the beginning of like, they do it to the NRL, they do it to everyone. And the thing I always bring up is like, again, I hated rugby league because I was like, I can't stand this game. This is the game that all the people bullied me. But as I've gotten older, I've realized like, actually NRL doesn't really have that same kind of like world domination. We must destroy everything else. They're kind of like, we know who we are. We're like the working class bogan sport, but we are who we are. We're from the working class tables of Australia.
Yeah.
The AFL is like this thing of like, no, we must dominate everyone and everything. I check the papers every day while I'm here. The front page yesterday is about how well the NRL women's is doing with the State of Origin crowd. Still nothing compared to Matilda's. But the whole article is about how the AFL must find their own versions of that to keep up. It's like, why must they? Why must they dominate and destroy everything and be on top of everyone? Why can't anyone breathe? And this is written by a journalist because there is this thing in the world of AFL structures where it's like, we must crush everything and just, it's complete control. Yeah. And there's a guy I've told you I want to bring on, he speaks about it much better than I do. Yeah. He's not on Twitter anymore, but like the history of it is like, screw everyone and everything. The World, and I'll bring it up, I'll pull the book out later, the Boys Club, the chapter on the World Cup, and what they did to make, everyone knows you can Google the Ron Barassi picture of him crushing
We spoke about this on here. Yeah.
The AFL basically like, you don't get to have a World Cup in this country unless you build us another stadium in Melbourne. Like we have to, the Olympics, the Lions get a new stadium. What's Football Australia get? In this book it talks about the Suns. The Suns stadium costs about 146 million. 100 million the government, the state, federal and Gold Coast Council paid for.
Do you know what? It's funny on this. This is going off topic because we're talking about AFL, but there's a new team, Tasmania, coming in, and it's going to cost them about $1 billion to build the new stadium.
$1 billion? And who's them?
The government.
Exactly.
And the people of Tasmania now have pushed back saying, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Like, we're all for a team here, but like, we don't have hospitals. Like, that road needs fixed. All this shit. Yeah. So now,
we don't even have a McDonald's.
The decision is going to Parliament to like warrant. Why are we putting all this funding into an AFL stadium?
Mark my words, the AFL will get whatever they
probably
want.
Right.
Can I ask you what your thoughts are? And this is obviously your opinion. Do you think the undertone or the reason for that always comes back to money? Because they want money?
It's money and power. It's this insecurity. Because I used to be on that thing about it's a matter of time before football takes over. Football's never going to take... I've actually come to this more mature realization of football is never going to take over. It's just we are up against too much history, too much bias, too much racism, you could even say, too much just ignorance and a lobotomized sporting culture, as I said. But it's not even that we need to take over. Like, I would love it if football could just be a sport that doesn't have to suffer what it suffers. Like, let us just be this great thing in the off-season. No, you can't have that. The Herald Sun gave the City the back page. The first ever Melbourne Derby Grand Final. Fair play. The Age gave us nothing. The Herald Sun the next day, front page was the Western match fixing scandal.
Yeah,
Make no mistake who told them to put that in there and said, oh, do your thing. Like, make no mistake who got them. That is not in the interest.
You reckon?
I again, it's all, as you said, it's all opinion. But pass me my bag. I'll pull you out. I'm going to pull you out this chapter that I read that speaks about the 2010 World Cup and what the AFL. They've got a department whose job is literally to protect the AFL, and at the same time, get everyone else like. Look out to bring down everyone else. I'm surprised.
These on that.
One of those because you know what's interesting about your perspective, Ellie, of we don't need to compete. We just let us be our thing. I think Simon Hill has had a similar perspective. Like, let's not compete. Let's just have our own
There's
thing.
There's no point trying to compete.
But I think they realise that if you allow football, as in soccer, to be its own thing, it will be bigger.
No, it won't, brother. The AFL's average crowds are like, it goes Premier League, Bundesliga, then AFL. Oh, sorry, NFL, Premier League, Bundesliga, AFL. It's the fourth biggest in the world. They've got like
Collingwood has the most members in the world.
Sporting team. Hawthorn have like most AFL clubs have 100,000 memberships. We're never going to hit that. We are just never going to get close. But they don't even want us to have a crumb. I used to think that and believe that. Then I realized actually that plays into what they want. Then it's kind of like justified that they're like, well, we got to protect our own. It's like you're not trying to protect your own. You want dominance. You want a hegemony. You want to just like
monopoly.
Eat everything, and that's why that they in every department they are just determined to screw us. And I have someone I'm very close with who worked very high up in Victoria Sport, and they used to think I was just delusional. Blah blah blah. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, by the way. I'm fully vaccinated. I'm not on that vibe. But they said to me like, if you were a fundamentalist before, he's like, if you knew what I knew and I've seen it now, you'd be an extremist. He's like, it's out of control. He just said they are so insecure. They've got Victoria government by the balls. Like, they'll do whatever, whenever they need money. We saw it with the victory, with that park, the victory we were meant to have. Now it's going to be an AFL park. This book speaks about the athletics, where Collingwood played, the Lexus Centre.
Lexus Centre, yeah.
That was the Olympic athletics field. Collingwood wanted it. They were kicked out and moved to Albert Park. Too bad the AFL wants it. But this is from chapter 14 of the Boys Club, where he basically speaks about... I'll try and read it as fast as I can. Australia's bold bid to host Soccer's World Cup kindled a wave of patriotic spirit. Aussie A-listers Nicole Kidman, Hugh Jackman, Elle McPherson and Mark Webber fronted a global campaign launched by the Football Federation Chairman Frank Lowy in 2009. It's an extraordinary opportunity for us to showcase Australia to the world, declared a beaming Prime Minister Kevin Rudd. The bid was in full swing when a member of the AFL's media unit hooked up for a coffee with a Fairfax investigative journalist in early 2010. An AFL strategist had completed an internal briefing paper into the likely impacts of a FIFA World Cup staged on Australian soil. Why are you even doing an investigation into that? And his research included insights into two controversial lobbyists, Peter Haggerty and Fedor Radman, hired by FFA to secure the globe's biggest sporting event. The pair, it was later revealed, stood to receive up to $11 million in fees and bonuses if Australia's bid was successful. According to an insider, the information passed on to the Fairfax reporter by the AFL set in train an award-winning investigation that would help derail the FFA's $47 million taxpayer-funded World Cup. The Age had no real interest in the story until they were tipped off. There was a lot of ill feel. Now, that just sums it up. There was no need for that story, but they were like, hey, you should probably report on this. They don't report on it, maybe the AFL gives them the left. Yeah, just to jeopardize it. I can see them being like, Melbourne Derby's getting a lot of coverage. Hey, by the way, have you heard about this one? And also the media giants are in bed with the AFL because it's the city and states and the country's most popular sport.
But so can I push back on that thing of why do you not see then soccer to have the potential of what it does everywhere else in the world here?
It just won't ever be the biggest sport, and that's fine.
Like for example, if we have a men's World Cup here, surely there's an impact on the younger generation of all the footy fans that go to the 100,000 people going to Collingwood games, their kids.
I've seen it. It's the other games are too part of the culture. There are 100. Melbourne Demons are like 160 or 70 years old. They go back through generations as part of this country's culture. The music, the sayings, everything's like around football and cricket and rugby league. That's just the way it is. And it used to upset me. It's like, that's just the way it is. But it's that we can't even breathe and have our own thing that makes me so upset.
It's the same thing with soccer in America.
You know what it is as well?
Yeah.
We always speak about how we can convert AFL fans into soccer, football fans. And it's definitely, it's a thing. It happened with me. But then there is also a massive flip side of soccer people that love footy and that go down that route. Even Jake, I've experienced it, and this has nothing to do with the boys because I love them at Sandy. On the sidelines, checking the footy scores while Sandy's playing.
Yeah, it's part of the culture.
It's part of the culture. It's like we're checking the Collingwood scores when you're on the bench for a fucking...
But that's all right, and I get that. I was at the...
There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm just saying that they're always going to be there as number one.
But that's fine. And that's
who cares?
Yeah,
who cares? I don't care.
I like you said, we're apart. So realistically, like the AFL's in 4 states, bro. Like it's huge here, but we're 25 million people.
Yeah.
So like we're actually part of something much bigger that doesn't really need to be number one in this country.
Well, that's exactly
we just need to be able to cook.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah, but they don't want to, like I said, like they have a unit that meets up with reporters and goes, hey, by the way, here's one to fuck that. You know, that code that's just trying to breathe, that's trying to get, just like a back page for their grand final. They've had a grand final, so now we got to, give them the upside and make sure it's just insane. And it's just, your memberships have never been higher. Your TV ratings have never been higher. The government builds you a stadium in every city. Darwin's supposedly next.
Yeah. And you're still worrying.
You're still worrying and you're still trying to screw us. And that's why I can't stand it. I can't watch it. It makes me feel sick that, like, again, I love the sport. I grew up playing it. It's in my fam. But I just look around and think, like, all this code does is just try and screw us out of having the best time of our life. And that's the thing. It's like, again, I haven't lived in this country for a decade, but like everyone tells me 2023, that winter was the happiest this country's been in a long time.
Bro, I was so fucking mad.
It was like the happiest this country's been.
Yeah.
The AFL will never give us that. Cricket will never give us that. Rugby, not because they're not great in their own way. You cannot do what football does. You just cannot do it.
Ali, I was in a fucking Nigerian restaurant in Carlton, right, with a bunch of Nigerians as the only guy supporting the Matildas in there, watching Nigeria beat the Matildas in that group stage game. That is, you can't get that anywhere else. No. That's just not. Even the fact that I was like, Friday, you went to a few games as well, didn't you?
I intentionally went to as many as I could.
Yeah. The fact that I was like, oh my God, I could go watch a World Cup game on Friday at 1 p.m. Like Canada versus Germany or whatever. Whatever the fuck it was.
I should also say, going into that, the World Cup, we were never going to get it. We weren't corrupt enough. And everyone's corrupt. It's not. So that whole point is that they reported on us basically giving funds to these people who would help us get it. It's not illegal, but it's probably not. It's not that on.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
But you didn't need to do that. You wanted to screw us by trying to make us build another stadium, by making it as hard as possible. You didn't just try and stop football from enjoying. You tried to stop Australians from having the biggest event
ever.
Yeah. And that's your own supporter base. That's what I'm trying to say. I remember this is years ago. The Victory, they did like a poll, and it was like 70% of Victory members are also AFL members.
Yes.
There are so many AFL fans who love football. You will screw them just to make sure they can't get a bit of happy. It's like that's why I say lobotomize. It's like you will like this sport and maybe a bit of cricket in the summer. That is it. Don't look outside. Don't look around. We can't have you even know about it.
But they love international. not every, but a lot of AFL clubs, even Carlton, were posting about Ange winning the Europa League. The other day I saw Isaac Quainer singing that World Cup the French song. We've spoken about this all the time.
That one. That's an interesting point, man, because within the last 2 years probably there's been a shift with
Now, why that's going to happen? Because, and I say this is why they can't stop it. And the big change has been the internet. In the old days, they could run all your three institutional kind of media formats: radio, TV, and paper. They were the three, and they ran them, right? But the internet, no one can control it anymore. FIFA is the most sold game in Australia, and I've said this for years. It's the Trojan horse into every kid now who just knows all the clubs and plays foot. Twitter. Every kid knows speed. Yep. Speed has made football cool. I'm just talking about that. UK rap's massive. They're all wearing football jerseys. Like, you can't tell people what's cool anymore. And so, I wouldn't even say this generation, the generation before us, like, football is now a thing where, I remember I got stopped once by one of the Super 14 rugby union guys. He recognised me. And he had a PSG kid on. This was in Australia somewhere. I'm like, you like football? He's like, yeah, man, we all play FIFA. And I was like, oh, FIFA, again, and I say this so many times as well, everyone is a football fan, they just don't realise it. You just have a if you're a sports fan. There are certain people who don't like sports, I get that. But if you like sports, the concept of sport, especially club sport, or that idea of feeling of you're part of something and you're against someone else, then football is for you, because football is everything. Everything that we love about every sport, football has that on steroids. And for good and bad reasons as well. Like, what happened in Paris the other day doesn't really happen. It actually does happen in other sports. But like, football also brings horrible stuff, as you guys have talked about. It makes people act in ways that no other sport does, and we shouldn't celebrate. But the reality is, everything you love about sport, if you like sport, then football is your sport. You're just either in denial or you haven't clocked it yet. You haven't watched a game enough. You haven't played FIFA. You haven't learned a story. You haven't heard a chant. Like I said, if you don't get into football, you're missing out on all these cool songs. You're missing out on all these references. You're missing out on commentary. Like, as you were saying now, commentary's going viral. It's inevitable that as we become a more globalized world, each generation will get more into football, because if you're not into football, then you're missing out on so many references and points and cultural moments.
Yeah, I even look up the street I grew up in that I'm still currently living. All of us when we were younger, we only played footy in the street. Now, a new family has moved across the road. They have 2 boys. They're kicking the soccer ball all the fucking time. They're big Arsenal fans. And then the boy next door to me as well, dudung, 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 on the fence. And I just look at it and I think it's funny how this has changed, because this street used to be purely AFL.
Yep.
And now, because of stuff like FIFA, TikTok, speed, this, that, whatever. Okay, some people, it's not palatable for them. Like, oh, shut the fuck up, what is speed? No, it doesn't matter, because really it just brings eyes to the game regardless. And
that's why I'm all for it.
Yeah, and people...